I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Nicole's Weekly Words. I hope that you've really been enjoying this weekly new way of learning vocabulary, and that the words I have chosen have been helping you, and more importantly, that you've been practicing. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Today, what we're going to do is focus on some phrasal verbs which use the word out. So I've chosen 5 great expressions, all containing the word out, and I thought I'd go into a little bit more detail of these with you. So, are you ready? Let's do it. The first word that I've chosen for today, word number 1, is break out. So the preposition out there we are using for break out. Now, believe it or not, there's actually 4 different meanings for breakout. Welcome to the English language. That's what makes it so much more difficult. The first meaning of breakout is when you're describing something that is dangerous or something that is really violent or unpleasant. And it starts suddenly without warning. So we're talking about something like a war or fighting, I suppose. Something happens without warning, something dangerous. You could say something like, fighting broke out in the stands as soon as the football team lost. Or an argument broke out between the 2 former best friends when they heard the truth. So about fighting, about war, about violence there. However, it can also be for something that's out of your control that happens without warning. So it might be something like a natural disaster or bushfires or floods or something like that. So you might say something like, unfortunately, bushfires have broken out in northern New South Wales. So that's another situation. So number 1, for something that is dangerous or violent, that starts suddenly without warning. The second meaning for breakout is to escape. So if a prisoner, for example, breaks out, it means that they escape from jail. They're no longer contained, they are free, I suppose, but they haven't been given that freedom, they have escaped by themselves. So that's another breakout. You might say something like, the prisoner broke out of his jail cell quite easily. Or there's been a that's a noun, my apologies. 3 prisoners have broken out of Sydney jail. Please be careful. Everyone who lives in the area, please be careful. Something like that. Number 3 for breakout. The meaning there is if you're talking about pimples or maybe a rash or even sweat. So it's something physical that happens to your body, maybe as a result of stress, maybe as a result of, too much exercise or eating the wrong food. So you might say something like, she broke out in a sweat as soon as she walked out the door because it was so hot. Stupid sentence, but you know what I mean. Or you could say, every time I eat strawberries, my face breaks out in a rash. Or you might say something like, she was so stressed about the exam that she broke out in pimples. So there's some examples there. Physical appearance, something happens to your body, whether it's a pimple, a rash, or sweat. The fourth meaning of breakout, I can't believe there's so many. This one is when you break out in song. So suddenly, without warning, you start singing. So you might say something like, she broke out in song because she was so happy. Or, I heard my favorite song on the radio and I broke out in song. So that's another one. So there's 4 different meanings there for the first phrasal verb, which is break out. Let's move on to number 2. The second one I've chosen for you today is die out. You might have heard of this before. It's got 3 different meanings. The first meaning is if something becomes less common, if there's almost no more of this thing in existence, eventually it disappears completely. So we're really using that first meaning to talk about something that has become extinct or that is close to extinction, I suppose. So we obviously talk about dinosaurs in that situation, you know, the dinosaurs died out millions of years ago, or to talk about a particular species of animal, if the number of that animal is reducing and they're becoming less and less, and eventually they will die out. So you might say, yeah, the dinosaurs died out a million years ago, or unfortunately the white rhino is dying out, something like that. The second meaning for die out is if you're talking about a fire or wind. So again, something natural, something to do with nature, where it gradually stops burning or stops blowing. So when there's a natural event, something from nature, and over time, gradually, slowly, it stops. So you might say something like, thank goodness the fire died out overnight. Or, it was so windy yesterday, but the wind died out. Something like that. Okay. That's great. Okay, so there's only 2 there. Did I say 3? Apologies. The joys of live video, the joys of going live. We make mistakes sometimes. Let's move on to the third expression I've chosen for Nicole's Weekly Words this week, and it is rule out. Have you heard of this one? Rule out? So it's used for actions or ideas or maybe even solutions. So if you decide that it's impossible or it's not suitable, or you decide not to do it anymore. So an action or an idea or a solution that you then don't do, basically. So you might say something like, the Prime Minister ruled out the cut in the childcare benefit. So that simply means that that idea or that solution got changed and they decided not to do it anymore. Or you might even say something like oh gosh, I can't think of an example there. How bad is that? He ruled out the possibility of going overseas next year. Something like that. Look, another meaning for rule out would be to rule out a situation. So it basically means it stops it from happening or from being possible, I suppose. So you might say something like, the car accident ruled out his participation in the football game on Saturday. So it really stops it from happening. There's no chance that something can happen because of this event. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So yeah, that's rule out. Let's move on to the next word for Nicole's Weekly Words for this week, and that is walk out. No, it doesn't mean to go out the door. It actually means to leave suddenly, to leave in protest, I suppose, because you're angry, you're not happy about something. So it could be a meeting, it could be a gathering, it could be even a performance, I suppose, and you disapprove of it, or you don't agree with what has been said or done, or you just don't like it if it's a performance. So you get up and you leave without warning. You walk out. This can be done in protest to show people, I don't agree with this. I don't think the same as you. Or simply because you don't enjoy it. So you might go to, I don't know, the cinema, and you think, this is supposed to be a great movie, and after 10 minutes you think, I don't want to see this anymore. So you walk out. So there you go, that's the first meaning. The second meaning of walk out is when you're talking about a relationship between a husband and a wife, and then suddenly, without warning, without talking about it first, one of those people, whether it's the husband or the wife, doesn't matter, but one of those people suddenly leaves and decides that they don't want to be married anymore. They don't want to be in a relationship anymore. So they walk out. That's what that means. So look, you might say something like, after 10 years together, John suddenly walked out on the marriage. Something like that. Yeah, and if we go back to the previous meaning, sorry, I didn't give you an example, you might say something like, she walked out on the meeting because she did not agree with a single word they said. Or, I walked out 10 minutes into the movie because it was the worst film I've ever seen. Something like that. Okay, now we've got our fifth word, our final word for today, and it is bring out. And look, there's two different situations for bring out. The first is the idea of launch. So if a company or a person launches a new product or launches something new for people to buy, they put it on the market, that is bring out. It's new, they start to sell it, they tell people about it. So you might say something like, Katy Perry has decided to bring out her next album in the summer, whatever. Or you might say, McDonald's has brought out a new line of chicken burgers, whatever. The second meaning of bring out is that you highlight a quality. You are really emphasizing the quality of something. You know, for example, you might say, those herbs that you used in the soup really bring out the flavor. Something like that. Or you might say, the colors you have chosen for the walls in your room really bring out the beautiful new furniture. Oh, what a stupid sentence, but you know what I mean. Excellent. The third way of using bring out is to bring out the best or the worst in someone. And it simply means that this particular thing or situation is, what should I say, showing that good or bad quality. So you might say, working night shift really brings out the worst in you. Or you might say something like, being friends with Samantha really brings out the best in you. You have become a very positive person since you've been spending time with her. Can you see what I mean? So there you go. There's our 5 words for today for Nicole's Weekly Words for episode 4. We've got breakout, die out, rule out, walk out, and bring out. I really hope that my explanation has helped. If it hasn't, please ask questions down here in the comments section. I'm always happy to help. And also, yeah, if you would like to practice writing some sentences to use these expressions, I'm happy for you to write them down here in the comments as well, and I'll correct them for you and give you some feedback. In the meantime, please go back, watch this live lesson again, take some notes, write your own sentences, and really focus on using at least one of these expressions every day. Alternatively, what you could do is you could go to my Facebook group, The Successful English Learner by Sydney English Teacher, and you can download the worksheet for this week, which will have all of the expressions, all of the different meanings, and lots of lovely example sentences there. So I really hope that helped. Thank you so much for joining me live. We went a little bit longer than expected today, but I appreciate you joining me on my Facebook page, Sydney English Teacher, in my Facebook group, The Successful English Learner by Sydney English Teacher, or on my YouTube channel, The Successful English Learner by Sydney English Teacher. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and thanks so much for joining me. I hope you come back again next week. Bye.